Hi, friend. Thank you so much for joining me on another episode of the Live Well with Josie podcast. I have a question for you, though. Have you struggled with any gut distress, sleep issues? Are you feeling stuck in your current health journey right now? Well, today on our episode, we have Dr. Anise Khalaf, who is a doctor of acupuncture and Chinese medicine. You're going to be able to feel his passion and excitement for all things integrative medicine through whatever platform you're listening on. We're going to talk element type, tips and tricks, and other things as well that you're going to be able to take with you on your journey to live well with intention. You can find him on Instagram and TikTok at acupuncturefit, and also head to www.elementtype.com when you're finished listening to this episode to learn your own element type and what might work best for you. Welcome to the Live Well with Josie podcast, a space for women like you to enter with an open mind and heart and leave feeling empowered to live your best life full of intention. Here, we learn together and we grow together. Enjoy today's episode.
What's up? How's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great, thanks. I am
Oh,
just so excited for our live today.
I am too. I feel like our energy matches very well. And so I've been so excited to talk with you.
I am too, and it's so nice to meet you here live. I firmly agree that our energy vibes and jives, and ever since I've been following your account, I've learned so much, that I'm even passing on to my own patients. So good.
Oh, that makes me so happy. So we'll go ahead and I'll tell everyone how I found you. So I was late night scrolling TikTok, not getting enough sleep. And I was like, who is this guy? This is awesome. This is so much good, valuable information. And so I looked on your page. I don't think I was actually, this is so terrible, but I don't think I was actually following you for the longest time because you just popped up on my page. So I thought I was following you. So I just always saw your stuff going along and I'm like, hey, this guy's awesome. But then I was like, I'm going to find him on Instagram because that's where I spend a lot of my time. So then that's when I found you on Instagram. So I'm so glad that we were able to connect.
That's awesome. And I want to thank you so much for your support. It's so interesting because that's what's scary about TikTok is they know what you're thinking or going to be thinking before you even think about it. So I hear that all the time, but it truly has been an amazing platform for me to spread my mission of health to, millions of viewers, hundreds of thousands of followers. So it's
Yeah, and
great.
that's awesome. That's what I love about just social media in general. It can be, there's often times where like we've got to take a step back from social media, but there's so much good that can actually come from it too. So much good information that you can get from it. And a lot of this good information you can't get elsewhere. So this is the place to go.
It truly is. It truly is. And if y'all haven't followed any of our accounts, I just want to encourage you to do that because there is a lot of fluff out there and there's a lot of truth in light. And regardless of either of those, there's a lot of voids right now that are in your community, that are in my community, that really need to be filled with eternal good and love and just, facts and education when it comes to health.
Oh, I 100% agree. We have been under fire the last couple years. So I'm glad that we can discuss today and just get some good information out there.
I'm super excited.
All right, awesome. So let's go ahead and start. I just want to discuss how you became or how you decided to become an acupuncturist, what you had to do to get there, and just kind of your story and your journey in that.
That's great. And first and foremost, I want to thank you for having me on to discuss these topics and just a little bit of an introduction. And I'll go into my story, but I just want to introduce myself to everybody here and thank you, Josie, so much for having me on. My name's Dr. Anise Khalaf, and my mission in life is to teach people what's going on inside of their bodies and then give them simple and just actionable tips to help them figure out, how they can take their health from normal to optimal. And it's funny that you asked me that story. I love to tell this story. Well, I'm the son of a chiropractor, and my mom was in education, and they truly back in the 80s believed in eating healthy. And this is a fun story because it was my first experience into you are what you eat. And I came home from school one day, Josie, and I was like, you know what, Mom, I want a real lunch. And she's like, well, what the heck is that? And I'm like, white bread, cheesy chips, a sugary drink, something that all the other kids have. I could like never trade my lunch. Like I was the kid with the hummus sandwich, the organic carrot. Anyway, mom was like, yeah, you can have a real lunch. And so she packed that for me. And I went to school. I was so happy. But after I started like eating that lunch, the processed foods and the sugary drink I had and the white bread and the processed meat, as soon as lunch finished, I had this like horrible headache. I'll never forget this. And then as the day progressed, I just felt like extremely tired and all of my energy was just so zapped and I just had this like dull stomach ache. I came home and I was like, "Mom, I never want a real lunch again." So that was my first introduction into like you are what you eat. So if you
Yeah.
believe that, if you believe you are what you eat, food is medicine, please, please, please hit that heart button and share this with as many people as you can. Share Josie's profile because what she is offering is just truly remarkable. Now, Josie, so fast forward to college, like wrecked my gut with the studying and maybe a little bit of partying. And you know what? I was really motivated mentally to take on my life after college, but then all of a sudden, physically, I actually had some bleeding in my stool. And I was so young and I went right to the medical doctor and they checked me out and they said, "Oh my gosh, you have some polyps in your colon." And I remember that day when he told me, those can eventually become precancerous. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't, I don't know how I can like live like this for the rest of my life. And then he gave me my options, but because my symptoms weren't severe, they weren't emergent and acute, and they'd been chronic, for a while. I decided to check out what options I had holistically, naturally. So I went right to a doctor of Oriental medicine, an acupuncture physician who was also an MD from China, an orthopedic surgeon, to see what my options were because I heard that traditional Chinese medicine might be beneficial for the symptoms that I was having. So I walked in his office, and this is probably my most long-winded response. I just
No,
want
I
to
love
get
it.
this
I am
story.
known to talk too much, and you're talking just great.
I
Keep
love it.
going.
I love it. So y'all, so I went to this doctor of Oriental medicine, and he looked at my cheeks and he goes, "You have problem with your colon." I was like, "What?" I didn't even tell him anything. Anyway, so I was like, "All right, fine, sign me up. You're gonna stick what where?" And I pointed to my head because he offers a very unique scalp acupuncture technique that we practice in my practice, which I can get into a little bit later. But anyway, so after following his food therapy program, after looking at how I was just eating so many wrong things from my body that were actually quote unquote healthy, but not really, and then realizing that it's going to also take acupuncture for this. I went on a whole regimen, and 14 weeks later, all of my symptoms were gone.
Wow.
I went back to the doctor and they checked me out again. They're like, "Well, what'd you do?" And I told them. They did look at me like I had two heads, like, "You're crazy," but they're gone. So I was like, "When do I need to come back?" They're like, "No, you're good. You don't need to come back." So I went right back to that acupuncture physician's office and I was like, "Sign me up. I am so motivated to devote my life to this medicine." So that's my story. And that's how I
Wow.
got into traditional Chinese medicine and acupuncture.
That is awesome. That's amazing. And the fact that you say you are what you eat is so true. And you are what you absorb too. You are what you absorb because our bodies don't always even absorb what we eat. Some things just flow right through and some things cause dysfunction. And so it's really important to get that dysfunction under control. And that's exactly what you were doing, which is awesome.
I just wrote that down, by the way. I'm taking notes because I'm learning so much from you. So you are what you absorb. Love it. Love it. If y'all love that, hit that heart button. So good. Amazing.
I
Amazing.
love that. Awesome. Okay. Now, something that I love is myth busting. I don't know if you ever watched that show, but that was something I loved in science class when my high school teachers would be like, "All right, we're watching Mythbusters." So, what are some myths that you see collectively in acupuncture that you just want to be like, that's not true?
Yes, yes. Let's bust, and I love that show, by the way. Let's bust no, I want to bust right now the number one biggest myth of why people don't get acupuncture. And that's because they think we use needles. Now, people ask this all the time, like, I'm too afraid. And I'll be the first to raise my hand. I'm medically trained.
Mhm.
A licensed acupuncture physician. I'm super afraid of needles. And I was when I first went to that doctor's, I was like, wow, I don't know if I want to do this.
Mhm.
And I ended up doing it because my back was against the wall. But here's the thing, and I prayed a lot about this. In my practice, we have a no needle policy. So we can't even say the word because in my practice, what we call them are instruments. Now, here is the difference. And I really thought a lot about this because, really, are they needles? Do they inject? No. Are
Mhm.
they serrated and super sharp? No. Are they hollow? No. So I was checking off all these boxes. These aren't needles. These are instruments or pins or just anything but a shot. So this is a big part of how I've been able to communicate to those to maybe who are on the fence and are
Mhm.
thinking about getting acupuncture, especially if you got tattoos. Like you got tattoos, like that's way more. I hear right that you can tell me that's way more painful than acupuncture.
Yeah.
So an acupuncture instrument versus a hypodermic needle, the difference is this to bust this myth. A needle, if you look at it under the microscope, it's round and it's hollow just because it needs to inject things. And actually, at the very tip, it's sharp and serrated. And that it's purposely like that. So when you're getting an IV or you're trying to penetrate the skin and the muscle layers, it's to inject. Now, the difference between that and an acupuncture instrument is this: you can fit about 12 to 15 acupuncture instruments inside a standard hypodermic needle. They're the size of yes, they're the size I can send you a graphic actually, Josie. It's awesome. They're the
Yeah.
size of a cat's whisker or two hairs
Oh,
and
wow.
super, super thin. And if you were to look at an acupuncture instrument under the microscope, it would be blunt like my pinky. And when it penetrates the skin, it moves the nerve endings left and right. And if done professionally, done well, a vast majority of time, it doesn't hurt, rarely, if ever, draws blood. And I treat kids that are, as young as 2 to adults that are 102,
Mhm.
kids with autism, gut and hormone imbalances, problems with the toxic liver even. And and when
That's
they
big.
come in and they get the treatment, they just calm and they're on their iPads. So I want to encourage you, if you have thought that acupuncture physicians or you're going to an acupuncturist to get a shot and that's what's happening, it's not what it is. It's a big difference. We use instruments, needles.
That's awesome. I would have never known that. I mean, I always just thought you just put a bunch of needles in me. I have personally never gotten acupuncture. I would love to get acupuncture. I've been so interested in it. That's why I am so happy we're talking because that's something that my husband, he got acupuncture. He has a lot of chronic back issues. He's in the Navy. He's a submarine guy and he's 6'5". Everyone's like, how does he even fit in that submarine? But he's got a lot of back issues, and so he got it done one time, and apparently it was when we were together, when we were dating. I'm like, I had no idea, but I'm so interested in getting that done, and I would have never known. And a lot of times we forget to even ask these questions when we are at the office or when we're getting anything done. We just kind of go and we do it, and we hope that it works, right?
And so it's so true. That is so true.
Awesome.
And by the way, if you and your husband are ever find yourself either in Orlando, I'm expanding a second practice to Nashville. Like, please be my guest.
Okay, cool. Now, let's talk about Eastern and Western medicine. You said something the other day that when they're married, they can work so well together. So I really want to get your intake on that. When you've seen that work really well, what you've experienced with patients. By the way, do you call them patients or clients? I have clients. You have patients, right?
Yeah, so I have patients in practice, and then I do work virtually as well. And with those, the virtual side of our practice, they're actually participants.
Okay. All right. So with your patients or participants, when do you see Eastern and Western medicine working really well together?
You know what? Here's the thing. And that's a great question. That's why I absolutely love your heart and I love your mission because you understand a term called integrative medicine. And it's a term, if you haven't heard before and you're listening right now, integrative medicine is the key. We have been sold a counterfeit. When I say we, when it comes to modern approaches to how the body is treated, is there's no one size fits all. So when it comes to this topic, is how I look at medicine first and foremost is this is there is a need that needs to have it broken down into three silos. There is disease treatment, there is disease prevention, and then there is health promotion. And that's really where we live in is health promotion, looking at the body from an above down, inside out approach to healing. We can even discuss that a little bit later. But really when ancient medicine is married with modern technology, that is the best because it turns the focus away from the businessman and it turns focus back to the human. Why not use the amazing testing that we have with a 5,000-year-old ancient test lab to figure out what's going on inside your body for chronic or subacute cases? Now, for acute emergent cases, oh my gosh, absolutely. Go right to the ER, right to the medical doctor. There are so many amazing life saving techniques. There are so many amazing life saving medications, procedures, and people who are so talented and skilled. Now, when it comes to chronic, that's where I believe there has been a counterfeit that has been sold. There has been this like understanding that prescription medication is the only route. And I'm here to tell you it's not the only route. Integrating ancient wisdom with modern testing. So figuring out where the deficiencies are at in the body from a blood test, looking maybe at hormones from a saliva or urine test, maybe even doing a food sensitivity test to incorporate into what your medical doctor is already doing in your care. If you've suffered a very horrible acute injury, or if it's just chronic, maybe why not start with a natural approach to medicine that's been used for thousands of years? I mean,
Right.
what lasts thousands of years that's not legitimate? So anyway,
Exactly.
I think they work best together for chronic and then like for subacute, right? And then also post surgery or pre-surgery or post-acute trauma. After you've been cleared by your medical doctor, I highly, highly recommend jumping on a call with Josie or anybody, virtually nationwide or locally, in offices from chiropractic to acupuncture to physical therapy. There's so many options. So it really works best, in my opinion, together all the time after you've been cleared by your medical doctor.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's so important. So, with what I do, we have to make for sure that very careful. We have our own scope of practice. We don't diagnose, prescribe, treat, cure anything. We're here to really help you in conjunction with your primary care physician, your medical doctor, whoever you're working with. And, we are just here to really help promote your health from a very foundational standpoint. And then also, like right now, I'm working on GI map testing and MRT food sensitivity testing. And so there's a lot of things we can also integrate, but we have to make for sure we're doing it in conjunction with your primary care doctor, whoever you're seeing. It's so important because it's not one size fits all. And hopefully, like you said, preventative medicine, it is so important. What we do can help prevent you from having to have all these chronic illnesses and all this stuff. But just in general, working together side by side is so important. There are so many educated and phenomenal doctors out there. There are so many great nutritionists, dietitians, and working together is how we're really going to help people because that's ultimately what we want is to help people not have to see us again. We hope you feel better and hopefully we don't have to see you again. But if we do, hopefully it's not under extreme circumstances, right?
Absolutely. No, it's so true. That's what I love. Again, your heart and your mission. If y'all haven't followed Josie, please go and follow her and so we can go out there to the masses because what you're talking about is truly life-saving, life-giving, and impactful.
I appreciate that. Right back at you. It's so
Thanks.
important. So important. All right. Now, with your patients, what are the symptoms you see most? Like when you have patients coming in, is it a broad spectrum of everything, or do you see a lot of chronic fatigue, metabolism issues, thyroid issues, liver issues? What's going on with the majority of your patients?
Yeah, so I'll start with the second mythbuster and answer this is a lot of people think that we're therapists, and actually in the state of Florida, an acupuncture physician is considered a primary care provider. We're state board certified.
Awesome.
We carry malpractice insurance. We can actually run labs, MRIs, X-rays. We can run all the imaging. We have to take the same basic core courses that a medical doctor has to take. And then not only do we have to integrate them into our theory, but we have to be able to translate them and then communicate it back to you. So there is a level of professionalism that we have to uphold, right? And a standard. We do not reuse our instruments. We do not reuse our needles when it comes to acupuncture. And really, when people come in,
No,
right,
no needles.
instruments,
No needles.
instruments,
I caught you.
got me. And here's the thing: I would say that the top reasons why people come in are for pain, addiction, weight loss, infertility, and also sleep conditions. And a very, very close sixth are skin conditions. Now, I personally work with many medical doctors in my community here in Central Florida, and also I'm going to be doing that in Nashville at our second location with our docs. Is my specialty is a scalp acupuncture technique, and that works with the symptoms of very terminal, rare, and severe cases. So in my practice, not only do we help with symptoms of the other things that I was talking about, but we love, love, love working with patients alongside with their medical doctor with cancer, Parkinson's, diabetes, Alzheimer's, autism. And it just really is very, very beneficial for the symptoms of those.
Wow, that's awesome. So you really do see a whole spectrum of people. So you don't have a specific niche. It's just really like whoever needs your services you can have it. I didn't realize that how much education. I mean, I know that acupuncturists need a lot of education, but I did not realize it was that in depth, and that's amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, it takes a lot of work.
If I ever move to Orlando, I'll just use you for everything.
Be my guest.
Okay, so do you have any other myths to bust, or was it those two?
You know what? I would hone in on the last one with which when it comes to food is medicine. I believe there's an ancient theory. And if you go to, there's a quiz I developed, Josie. It's elementtype.com. Again, that's elementtype.com. Just like you have an Enneagram, just like you have any sort of personality type quiz. Well, there's a food type quiz. It's an ancient practice, 5,000 years, where it looks at the energetics of food, and it shows that really food can be healing for the body. So like a giraffe will eat up here and a
Mhm.
lion will eat down here. I've had carnivores come into my practice and I've switched them to more of a giraffe diet because we
Mhm.
understand their element type, earth, fire, metal, water, or wood in practice. But conversely, I've also switched somebody from like a giraffe diet into a carnivore type because their element type, let's say, is more of a fire type.
Mhm.
And once we can understand and get more clarity, that's how we move patients from normal to optimal. So there's a myth that, oh, food can't heal. Well, as a matter of fact, there are tons of studies that show that food is medicine. That'll be the third myth. But thank you so much for bringing that up. I'm loving this conversation.
Yeah, I love that so much. And that's so true. How do I say this? I don't want to say despise, but I do. I do despise when people are like, this is the cure all diet for everyone. And that's not true because we're all bio individuals. Every single person is different. Your genes, your DNA, your lifestyle, the way you eat, the way you sleep, everything is so detrimental on who you are as a person and what works best for you. And so keto's not going to work best for everyone, but for someone eating more keto is going to work well for them. And I truly believe that all of these diets, they have names, but they're more just like find the way that works best for you and eat that way. So it can be beneficial to have these diet names when we're looking at like, okay, this might be better for you, but just throwing that out there and saying, this is what's best for everyone, that can be harmful.
Amen to that. And that's why it's so key to get somebody on your team like yourself when it comes to health coaching to be the advocate to understand this. That's the key. Test, don't guess, and then see which path, which route is suited for you. And that's how we turn that focus again away from the businessman back to the human for life giving
Right.
approaches to health.
Right.
So
I
good.
love that. Awesome. All right, cool. Well, before we go on to questions, is there anything else you want to add to what goes into being an acupuncturist? Anything with your story, any myth busting, or anything with patients? Or are you ready for questions?
I think I'm ready for questions. And if for any of you are inspired and want to look into the profession of acupuncture and traditional Chinese medicine, which acupuncture is just part of the umbrella of traditional Chinese medicine. There's herbal therapy, there's cupping, there's so much that we do. I want to encourage you to just reach out to me, we just need more amazing people who have a heart to heal for our profession. So yeah,
I
no,
love
I'm
that.
let's jam on some more things. I'm loving this.
Awesome. Me too.
Have you tried the Just Ingredients protein powders yet? I have been obsessed with this company because their founder has been someone in the wellness space that I have admired greatly in my own wellness journey. Just Ingredients makes it their mission to utilize real, simple ingredients, hence their name, that are of quality and will add nothing but nutritional value to their customers. I have to admit, I am a sucker for anything peppermint and chocolate, so their chocolate peppermint protein is a favorite of mine during the holiday season, and any other time of the year, honestly. They also have flavors such as vanilla, chocolate, pumpkin spice, creamy peanut butter, snickerdoodle, and more. Shaken up with water or added to your morning coffee, these protein powders are made from only real whole food ingredients with no added fillers, emulsifiers, or gums. Each blend is flavored without artificial sweeteners or sugar alcohols. Made from 4 to 5 different protein sources, including 100% grass-fed, non-denatured whey imported from New Zealand and Europe. If you're sensitive to whey or dairy, their vegan blend is an earthly chocolate-flavored all-natural protein powder made with 5 different plant-based protein sources and also flavored without artificial sweeteners or sugar alcohols. Each serving of protein powder yields 22 grams of protein, and as a woman, we know that we need a good amount of protein daily, which is sometimes challenging to accomplish. Adding protein, not to substitute, but to enhance our daily intake, can be beneficial, and Just Ingredients is a blend I can get behind. Not only do they provide delicious protein powders, but they also have some other awesome products such as tooth remineralizing powder, pre-workout, and beneficial herbs like ashwagandha, maca root, and lion's mane. Just Ingredients is giving you 10% off your order if you use the code LIVEWELL at checkout. Again, if you use the code LIVEWELL without any spaces at checkout, you will receive 10% off your entire order. Happy nourishing.
All right. So, for those who are struggling with metabolic disorders, is there anything that they can do at home to relieve stress, to get better sleep from like an acupressure standpoint, or just any recommendations you have for them at all with metabolism?
Yeah, I love that. And when it comes to metabolism, when it comes to stress, when it comes to sleeplessness, insomnia, I truly look to how a patient is sleeping, and then I also look to how a patient's gut. And I know we're going to maybe even be talking about that a little bit later, how their patient's gut is balanced. But we have multiple sleep wake cycles, and in our bodies, and how we're made, and those cycles, those rhythms really need to be synced in order to improve our sleep. And if you look this up, there's an ancient organ clock that has been like developed in this 5,000-year-old test lab that we have, where Chinese medicine practitioners can understand, like, have you ever noticed, like, through a time of your life, maybe you wake up at like 3 in the morning
Hmm.
constantly over and over and over again? Well, they've mapped out from 1 to 3 a.m. is your liver, which has to do with the emotions of stress or anger. So understanding when you wake up throughout this cycle can be a very, very key way to help improve the symptoms that you might be having. Now, when it
Wow.
comes to natural sleep aids, I have a list of some of my favorites. Number one are sleep promoting foods. Number two are calcium and even or magnesium. Sometimes taken together is best. And really the key to figure out if you're deficient in any supplement, not just these, is always test, don't guess. But calcium has an effect on our sleep cycle. And according to one study, calcium levels are at their highest during our deep, rapid eye movement. That's the REM sleep periods, which means that if you never get to that REM phase, or if it's limited, it could be related to a calcium deficiency. So that's why it's like so important to figure that out. Now, conversely, if if you're taking calcium, that may deplete magnesium in the body, And magnesium can also help with a sleep state. So if you're having trouble sleeping as well, you want to look at both supplements. And studies have shown that higher magnesium levels can induce a deeper sleep. Some of my favorite snacks to consume for getting a good night's sleep are the following. So, number one is, and one of my favorites, especially if it's alignment with your element type and what you should be eating energetically for your body, is half a banana with a handful of almonds. Of course, if you don't have an allergy, some gluten-free oatmeal with maybe a light drizzle of honey and some dark cherries. If you
Mhm.
have a sweet tooth, versus going to like some processed candy or super sugary chocolate before bed. I personally love like even a small Ezekiel wrap with some turkey and cranberries. Maybe it's like the November Thanksgiving time and you got
That
that in
sounds
your fridge.
good.
And
Yeah.
then three of my favorite teas. So I'll kind of land with this is three of my favorite teas are passion flower, valerian tea, chamomile. And then if you need something very quick in a jiffy, a small glass of tart cherry juice. Those are some of my favorite food therapy tips when it comes
Yes, that
to helping with
magnesium.
stress.
Yeah, absolutely. That was so great. I think it's so important to really, like you said earlier, that myth busting that food is not medicine because food is medicine. And one of the best ways to get a good night's sleep is to have, if we're having those issues, having a little bedtime snack is so beneficial. And I don't think a lot of people realize that. And it really is. That's something I tell clients. That's what I tell friends and family if they're struggling with sleep. Have a little bedtime snack because if you're waking up, like you said, it could be due to something specific. And we want to address that. Okay, now let's go ahead and get to gut health and dysbiosis. So, what are any and all recommendations that we have for gut health and dysbiosis? That is something that I'm super passionate about. So, please give us all and any recommendations for that.
Yeah, this is great. I want to hear your take on this too, because I'm sure I can learn something as well. That's pretty remarkable, what you do. But really, the gut has this ecosystem in it that consists of the good, the bad, and the ugly bacteria, is what I call them. There's
Right.
like there needs to be this balance of that, and when it's out of balance, there's this fancy term called dysbiosis. And I love that you brought it up. I've been studying that since I first entered into practice because
Wow.
part of my journey was really healing my gut.
Yep.
But in short, to really fix gut imbalance, to target gut imbalance, I have pretty much 5 steps that I refer to. Number one is detoxifying the gut. That is so key in order for probacteria, right? Probacteria to survive in the gut. You really need to remove toxins that threaten them. Use natural detox and even self-supporting agents. I'm sure you have some of your favorites that I'd love to hear as well. Obviously, second is take probiotics. I love probiotics that are an SBO probiotic, and that's actually good for certain element types. Once an element is figured out from a traditional Chinese medicine aspect, everything I look at is through the lens of that ancient medicine. But so what SBO is soil-based organism probiotic, and they really help restore an unhealthy gut and put it back to balance when it comes to that dysbiosis. Nourishing also with prebiotics may be beneficial, depends on the patient. And because what happens is prebiotics sustain probiotics. It's like the fertilizer for probiotics.
Hmm.
And that allows them to produce healing compounds like SCFAs. There's so many I guess we could do a whole live on
I
probiotics and
know.
probiotics, right?
I
And
know.
then of course, eating a healthy diet by removing sugary, fatty processed foods that harm your microbiome and incorporating natural whole foods and fibers to give your gut the nutrients that it needs. And lastly, of course, if your doctor has cleared you for it, exercise. Moderate physical activity helps to increase probiotic populations in the gut and it really enhances the diversity. So those are kind of like the five keys that I recommend. How about you? What are your thoughts on all this? I love this
Yeah.
question.
Oh, definitely probiotics. I'm big into like spore based or SBO. I know you like the ancient nutrition line, don't you?
I do.
Yeah. And that's what I've used for years. I love their collagen. I love their probiotics. So, that's something that I recommend as well if you have access to that. And then also, like I said, a spore based probiotic. The Mega Spore is a favorite of our community as well. Um, but definitely a probiotic. I feel like most people can benefit from that. Most people have chronic gut issues, and a lot of people just don't even really know it. And I really feel like just in general, most people, again, if you're cleared for it, can benefit from a probiotic. I love bone broths. I love drinking bone broth. That's like my coffee in the morning now. I'm a big coffee lover, but I don't really drink coffee often anymore because I've gotten in such a habit to have my 16 ounces of warm lemon water with a little pinch of sea salt for electrolytes. And then right after that, I do some warm bone broth. I will put collagen in it if I want a little extra collagen, or I'll put a little bit of bovine gelatin in it. Gelatin is extremely nourishing for your gut. And so I'll maybe put a little bit more of that into my bone broth in the morning. And that's like my warm cup of coffee now. I just love it. It's like a warm cup of chicken noodle soup in the morning. And then I also love we actually in our community, it's really big to make like gut gummies. So we use bovine gelatin and fruit juice to make a gummy for like a really awesome snack. So we love doing that as well. Yeah. And then fruits, huge into root vegetables like broccoli, cauliflower, and Brussels sprouts. All of those type of vegetables are super important for your gut as well. But I will also recommend that if you're having bloating issues and struggles with your gut, one of the best things you can do is cook your veggies in a healthy fat. Yes, because I'm glad we're on the same wavelength here. That's why I wanted to have this with you. Because our body sometimes can't break down those raw vegetables very well, and by cooking them, it breaks it down a little bit to help with proper digestion. So you're not bloating, it's breaking it down so you can absorb your nutrients better. So that's something I recommend, but also with that, healthy fats like coconut oil, ghee, grass-fed butter, avocado oil here and there. I recommend those
Yeah.
over other oils as well. Those can be very nourishing for your gut too. So I think together that was awesome.
Wow. That was fire.
Well,
If y'all love what Josie just said, hear this. The world needs to hear what you're saying. Thank you so much. I'm seeing that coming in. So,
no, thank
wow.
you.
You're
That's
welcome.
awesome. And again, stress, sleep, that is all very, very important because dysbiosis can be exacerbated by just like not having proper stress management and sleep. And I just dismissed a client last night and we were talking about her stress levels. And I was like, I'm not a mom. I'm not yet. And I'm like, I hate telling you what to do for your stress because you're a full-time working mom. And I cannot imagine how you're feeling all the time, just all the time. Like sometimes I can barely take care of myself and my dog. My husband takes care of himself, thankfully, because sometimes I can't even take care of myself. And just with working with mothers too, I know that life is so stressful, but if we can find a way, just like going on a walk and getting out in the sunlight is so powerful and it's so important. And I think that's something that we just miss a lot is just that God-given sunlight that we have that can be so powerful for our health as well.
I'm a huge proponent of vitamin D. Oh my gosh, all the above of what you said. And it's funny. I love, so if you're a mom and you're listening to this right now, yes, my heart goes out to you because a lot of moms who I work with as well, I know you do, they're the health rock for their
Mhm.
families. And a
Yeah.
lot of time and oftentimes they will neglect their health just to serve or even sometimes feel guilty about giving back to themselves. So one of the key takeaways from our health summit, one of the speakers, a habit expert. And when I think about what you're talking about, Josie, is truly around self-care. And
Mhm.
self-care is really what the name implies. It's taking care of your personal health and well-being because you are responsible for your physical health, your emotional health, and your mental health. And on my personal healthcare checklist, which is what we share with everybody on our virtual summit, are really making sure that the physical health is in check, social health is in check, mental and emotional health, spiritual health, and environmental health. That's what's on my self-care checklist. And I really encourage, especially the mamas who are listening to this, or you've been a busy working professional, not even married and single. Life is just busy, and there is just constant stress thrown at us. So just
Yeah.
making sure, that you have that checklist out. You're serving yourself in order to serve others. So I know we went a little bit off there, but it's so key
No.
for everybody to hear, including myself.
It is. Yeah, that's absolutely true. It is so true. I really, and just saying that, like, one of the biggest reasons I do what I do, my mom was our caretaker forever. And just about 4 years ago, she was diagnosed with breast cancer. And I don't ever remember her being sick in my entire life, ever. And then she got breast cancer, and it was like, now luckily she's good. All of her scans are good. And so she's been out for maybe 4 years, 3 years now without having it. So, we are so grateful for that. But also, it was just like such a huge shock because she had never been sick, you know? And that's because a lot of times we hold this chronic stress that we don't allow ourselves to get sick. And it's good for us to get sick once or twice a year or once every 2 years just to kind of revamp our immune system. And a lot of people don't realize that. A lot of people are like, I haven't been sick in 5 years. And it's like, that's actually chronic stress taking over your body and not allowing your body to kind of detox and revamp its immune system how it needs to. And I don't think a lot of people realize that. So, yeah, that's so true. It's really important to manage your stress levels where we can and really focus on just getting outside in nature and taking a deep breath.
I want to tell you, your mom is just so blessed to have a daughter like you. And if she's listening, you got to share
Yeah,
this with her. But congratulations to her for overcoming that. That's a true inspiration to my life and myself. My grandma had breast cancer, and actually one of my colleagues, and you know him as well, Dr. Josh Axe,
mhm.
and his mom as well. A huge part of his story was her overcoming, her cancer, of course, with the integration of all of the best modalities of
Right.
medicine, and he talks about that often. If you're listening to this right now, and you're hearing this. I'm a collaborator, and I contributed to Dr. Josh Axe's most recent book called Ancient Remedies. And if you don't have a copy of that, I want to encourage everybody to go
I
pick
love that
that
book.
up. Yeah, yeah, it's a great
Mhm.
recipe if anybody's dealing with past thoughts, traumas, and toxins that have been affecting their life. But
Yeah,
that's
it's
great
really
about your
great.
mama. She's definitely in my prayers constantly now. So that's great.
I appreciate that. Yeah, she's a true hero. And honestly, that book though, that has been so beneficial to me and my family and just very helpful. And yeah, I have been following him. He's one of the biggest reasons why my family and I got into like holistic health and just started researching that. I was diagnosed with lupus 2017. And I was like, and then I went to college afterwards. So I didn't really take care of my health. But once I was out of college, I was like, I have got to get myself under control because I want to live a quality life, you know? And that, yeah. So just the community, this whole community, there's just so much information, so many valuable people and valuable information that comes from it. And I'm just so grateful for you and everybody in this
Aw.
community. So,
Oh my gosh,
uh,
I'm so grateful for you.
well, we won't take too much of your time to kind of finish up. Um, anything that you want to, any information you want to give us about like autoimmune disease, chronic illness, liver detoxification. I know you have the list of questions that I kind of wanted to go over, but anything specifically as a whole for any of those that you're like, yes, this is something I really want to get out to the public.
Oh my gosh. And thank you so much for honoring my time. And this has just been truly a pleasure. So I'll talk about a couple of things and then pass it back to you. And then I don't mind some other closing thoughts. Let's talk about, have you ever seen My Big Fat Greek Wedding? Harmonies?
Yeah.
Let's talk about hormones,
Hey.
because hormones are such a big topic right now, and everybody has them. When they
Mhm.
get out of balance, it doesn't discriminate. But many of the major contributing factors to hormone imbalance include food allergies and gut issues. Gut issues are what we've been talking a lot about today. Being overwhelmed or obese, high levels of inflammation by a poor diet, a sedentary lifestyle. I firmly believe that sitting is the new smoking. Also, there is, a genetic component to this. Epigenetics and genetic testing has really exploded because it gives another angle, another way to really look at and approach hormone imbalance. And then, of course, there's toxicity. Thinking about the exposure to chemicals like pesticides, viruses, even cigarettes or excessive alcohol or excessive medication use. Those are really, really huge hormone disruptors. Mold. I'll have to introduce you. You'll love my buddy, the mold medic. His name's Michael Rubino. I don't know if you follow him, but
I
I'll have
don't.
to put y'all on a live together. He's a mold expert and what molds wreaking havoc on people's body, especially here
Yeah.
in the Southeast, like in Florida, where I'm at, so humid. But some of my favorite tips and when it comes to food therapy, been talking a lot about food and food is just a big part of my heart. Healing with medicine, healing with food is medicine is really looking to swapping carbs for healthy fats. Foods that balance hormones include a variety, and you brought this up earlier, of fat containing foods that either provide short, medium, or long chain fatty acids. And your body needs various types of these fats to help with the balance. And my four favorite sources of anti inflammatory foods and healthy fats are number one, are coconut oils. And like you said, limited amount of avocado, and even if you're working with a very highly skilled professional, understanding how incorporating an organic grass-fed butter into your diet, and or even in the animal world, depending on your element type, a wild caught salmon that's sourced properly. If
Mhm.
there's no moderation that I have for farm raised salmon, like if you think you're in a restaurant and you're eating healthy, because there's a salmon salad, let's say, two components of that. By the way, number one, if you want to ask if the salmon is wild caught, because farm raised salmon is injected with dot colors, enhancers, and the chemicals in a lot of farm raised salmons are nasty. And second component of that is that raw salads, and I love that you brought up raw earlier, might be not as beneficial for some element types versus others. Because if you eat raw vegetables and you feel bloated, I want to encourage you to maybe start lightly steaming your vegetables. This is actually a TikTok that we've done over and over on tips on this to really improve someone's stomach discomfort. I love all of those nutrients, I would say, to help balance hormones. Some of my favorite supplements, especially after getting a functional test from any professional out there, and it shows a deficiency, are evening primrose oil, vitamin D. Of course, you brought up bone broth, and we've
Mhm.
talked a lot about probiotics, but also adaptogenic herbs. Adaptogenic herbs are a very, very unique class of healing herbs that can promote hormone balance and also protect the body in a variety of ways. It depends on the type of thyroid deficiency that a patient has and understanding if an adaptogenic herb might or might not be good for that.
Right.
I would say lowering cholesterol naturally, reducing anxiety, and also stabling blood sugar is a good reason to maybe incorporate adaptogenic herbs. These are just herbs that aid and help the body adapt to the stressors of life. My favorites are ashwagandha, holy basil, and then of course there is going to be an explosion here very soon, and I believe you've already seen it in mushrooms. So I
Yeah.
would say those are my favorite, like hormone balancing fighting foods.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing all that with us. I That is a lot of what you recommended is a lot of what we see here in our space as well. I mean, it's a big space, but nutritional therapy in our space, that's a lot of what is recommended here as well. And I think that is so beneficial. And you're absolutely right. Again, everybody is different. Everybody's bio individual. You use the element and you said you have a quiz on that. And so that would be something that I can share with others to see what their element type is. But yes, everybody is a bio individual. Everybody's different. What works for you isn't always going to work for somebody else and vice versa. So it is so important that we really see what works best for us.
Man, that's true inside out healing. Love
Yeah.
it.
Anything else you want to share with us?
I'd love to bring some awareness here right now, if that's okay, because my heart around promoting health. And remember, we were talking about earlier the three silos of medicine. There's disease treatment, disease prevention, and health promotion. And really understanding which pathway one needs to get on can be life saving, whether it's conventional medicine, natural medicine. But right now, in the United States and North America, if you're listening to this in your community, in my community, we're in a crisis. America's overdose epidemic is currently at a level that we have never experienced before. And I want to go over some facts right now because I know there's a pandemic going on. We have an external war going on, but internally, there are patients who are suffering, who are fighting addiction to opioids. And it's something that doesn't discriminate because of mental health, because of, stress and factors. People are looking for coping mechanisms to cover up pain. And they're turning to these drugs that are even laced with fentanyl. Right now in Florida, I can't tell you how many news clips I'm seeing just from spring breakers dying from trying drugs because they're laced with fentanyl. And fentanyl can kill you in seconds. As a matter of fact, the amount of fentanyl that can kill you is the size of Abraham Lincoln's nostril on a penny. So the
Wow.
statistics are very, very grim. And then I'm going to lead into why we're doing this summit. But here's some of the stats. Overdose in the United States has risen by 450% since 1999. Number two is in 2020, deaths increased more than 21,000 since 2019. And also in 2020, remember, this was the year when the NBA had to shut down and everything was closing down because everybody was so confused as to what was going on. So people were very scared, fearful, and they were looking for drugs as a coping mechanism. And in 2020, more than 270 Americans died of an overdose each day. That's daily, making the latest CDC report from the CDC that more than 100,000 Americans lost their lives in the most recent 12 months on that report. So this is something that cannot be looked over. And it's something that I'm working with an organization here in Florida who understands that this can't just be an outside in approach. It's not just medicine. It's not just the faith-based leaders, the business leaders, but also there's a natural medicine approach that needs to be added into this conversation. It's an all hands on deck approach to be able to save lives. So what I decided to do is to present something to our millions of viewers, our hundreds of thousands of followers on TikTok. I'm over on Clubhouse. We have a club called the Health Network where we have over 10,000 followers. And my goal and my life's mission is to spread the good word of health promotion. So what I did is decided to bring in all of the greatest, in my opinion, or some of the greatest thought leaders in the world to talk about ways to help improve and boost your energy, increase vitality, ways to improve sleep, tips for eating to reduce chronic pain. And if you want more information, please DM me. So I really appreciate just really your heart and understanding what's needed in the world. And that's what I would say to leave anybody with in my kind of like a closing thought. And I'll pass it back to you is that when I meet people like you, I think of the word service and a servant leader. That's exactly who you are. And that's what I want to surround my mission with is really and John Wooden said this best. Coach John Wooden is this quote: the most powerful leadership tool that you can have is your leadership example. And in Jim Collins' book, Good to Great, which is one of the greatest business books of all time, he dives into what a servant leader is. And he breaks it up into levels where level one is a boss who just sits up there and tells you what to do, micromanages, everything's about him. But if you move through the levels and understand how to become a servant leader, which is a level 5 leader, which is the ultimate leader, that's the servant leadership mindset. And that's what the world needs right now. My practice, my business will never become greater than I am. Whether I'm hiring, I'm training, I'm teaching, I'm treating patients. If I'm not acting like a leader, then my team, my community, those around me will not respect me like a leader. So what excites me the most is to see people like you really rise up here and look at all of the people who have joined on this rise up to become legacy leaders with their own mission. So I will leave it at that. Thank you so much for having me on here and passing the mic back to you.
Thank you so much. Well, I am so grateful to have you on here as well. And I really do think you have a servant's heart as well. And that truly is my goal, is just to be able to be here to serve others. And it's not for me. It's not for me at all. It's just for everybody to feel better, for God's glory, and for just, and I really truly believe that. So I'm so glad that you were on here with me today. You have warmed my heart, and I'm so glad that we had this conversation, and there is just so much knowledge. I'm so excited to be able to share this with my community, with your community, so that everybody can get all this valuable information, and we'll stay connected.
Let's do it. The honor's mine. Let's do this again. I can't wait
Awesome.
for many, many times. And I'm going to definitely share all of your knowledge with my community. So gosh, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you too. You have a wonderful weekend, and I can't wait to see you.
You too. You're welcome. Can't wait to see you. Take care.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Live Well with Josie podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please don't forget to leave a comment and review, as we would greatly appreciate it. Also, please remember that nothing discussed here today is to be used as medical advice to diagnose, cure disease, prescribe, or treat illness. These conversations are simply to be used as educational resources for living a life with intention. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook at Live Well with Josie, and my website, www.livewellwithjosie.com. See you next time, friend, and until then, stay intentional.